Welcome to Past People. To support my channel, please consider subscribing. The life and legacy of George IV, a figure of immense historical significance, is a tapestry woven with extraordinary tales and notable moments. From his opulent lifestyle and extravagant spending to his tumultuous marriages and prominent role as a regent, George IV's journey through the pages of history is a captivating narrative. And in this exploration we delve into the intricate details of his relationships, his impact on British society, and his enduring influence on the ages that bear his name, an emblem of the Georgians and a defining figure of the Regency era. George IV, during his time as a prince and later as a king, would never have experienced an ordinary existence. Nevertheless, bearing this in consideration, it becomes apparent that his life was remarkably unconventional. He held the dual titles of the Premier Gentleman of Europe and a subject of disdain and mockery. His reputation encompassed both his polished manners and captivating demeanour, alongside his excessive drinking, lavish spending habits, and scandalous romantic escapades. Born on the 12th of August 1762 as the eldest prodigy of King George III and Queen Charlotte, he was bestowed the status of Prince of Wales within a few days of his birth. Queen Charlotte would eventually bring forth a total of 15 offspring, of which 13 reached maturity. Yet among his numerous siblings, George held a special fondness for his younger brother, Prince Frederick, who came into the world just a year later. His relationship with his father was marked by tension, with George III frequently voicing criticism towards his son. The complex dynamic persisted as they both matured. For instance, in 1784, when Charles Fox, a politician who shared a contentious rapport with the king, returned to Parliament, Prince George enthusiastically supported him, proudly donning the buff and blue colours associated with Fox. Naturally, there existed ample reasons for George III's reproach. Prince George navigated his romantic entanglements with a complete lack of discretion. His amorous liaisons were numerous over the years, yet his involvement with Maria Fitzherbert stands out as either legendary or stuff of parental nightmares, particularly for those of royal lineage. The Royal Marriages Act of 1772 prohibited direct heirs to the throne from marrying before the age of 25 unless granted the monarch's permission. Marriages after the age of 25 could proceed without such consent, but only upon securing the approval of both parliamentary chambers. Given her commoner status in Roman Catholic faith, the twice-widowed Mrs. Fitzherbert was far from an acceptable candidate for royal matrimony. Despite these circumstances, the young prince remained resolute in his affection for her. After extracting a marriage promise from Mrs. Fitzherbert, an agreement obtained under duress, following a passionate episode in which George seemingly wounded himself, possibly exacerbating earlier wounds from a prior bloodletting by his physician. They secretly wed in 1785, and nonetheless the union lacked legal validity, rendering it void. Their romantic liaison endured, and their supposedly secret marriage became widely known. Finances also posed a significant concern. Prince George accumulated substantial debts throughout his extensive efforts to enhance, adorn, and furnish his residences in both London and Brighton. Additionally, his lavish entertaining, stable maintenance, and other princely expenses added to the financial strain. While he demonstrated significant support for the arts, and the Brighton Pavilion stands as a lasting testament, George's debts were nothing short of staggering. In 1795, he proceeded to enter into a legitimate marriage, and the arrangement involved his union with his cousin, Caroline of Brunswick, with the stipulation that his debts would be eradicated in return. However, their initial encounter presented an alarming scenario. Prince George immediately called for brandy, leaving Princess Caroline to question if his conduct was a perpetual state. She even voiced her disappointment in his appearance, and furthermore, George was intoxicated during their wedding ceremony. Predictably, the marriage descended into an utter catastrophe, prompting the couple to lead separate lives. Their relations failed to improve post-separation, and their offspring, Princess Charlotte, born in 1796, tragically did not inherit the throne. Her death during childbirth in 1817 triggered a profound national mourning. George's tenure as Prince Regent remains a defining aspect of his legacy. George III's first bout of apparent madness surfaced in 1788, and current beliefs suggest it may have been attributed to a hereditary ailment known as porphyria, yet he managed to recover without regency. However, after the passing of his youngest daughter, Princess Amelia, George III's health deteriorated once again in late 1810. Consequently, on the 5th of February 1811, Prince George was appointed regent. Initially, the regency imposed limitations on George's authority, set to expire after a year. However, the king's recovery failed to materialise, leading to the extension of the regency until George's accession to the throne in 1820. Notably, George IV's coronation the subsequent year remains etched in history due to an uninvited guest, his estranged wife, Queen Caroline. Upon becoming king, George IV vehemently refused to acknowledge her as queen, even excluding her name from the Book of Common Prayer. Nevertheless, Queen Caroline made an audacious appearance at Westminster Abbey, demanding entry, only to be rebuffed. Her demise followed less than a month later. By the late 1820s, George IV's health was rapidly deteriorating, compounded by his excessive alcohol consumption and long-standing battle with obesity. He ascended the throne at the age of 57 and passed away during the early hours of the 26th of June 1830. Tragically mirroring the discordant tone of his nuptials, the undertakers at his funeral were inebriated. Summing up a life as intricate and multifaceted as George IV's is inherently challenging. Nonetheless, his existence spanned a period of profound societal, political, and cultural transformations, during which he twice lent his name to eras, first as one of the Georgians and then as a representative of the Regency. King William IV. Among the contemporary British monarchs, a few receive as little attention as King William IV. However, upon delving into his biography, we discover a life characterized by daring, indulgence, and an anti-establishment attitude that seems incompatible with his royal position. Today we will examine William IV, the most eccentric individual to ever occupy the British throne. But before we proceed, make sure to subscribe to Past People. And after that, leave a comment suggesting other unorthodox rulers that you'd like to learn about. Now let's explore the story of a man who accidentally became king. William Henry, a member of the Hanoverian dynasty, was born on the 21st of August 1765. Although he eventually ascended to the throne as King William IV, his chances seemed slim in the beginning. At that time, his father, King George III, was in his 20s and had only begun what would become a reign lasting nearly 60 years. Moreover, George III had two older sons, George and Frederick, who stood ahead of William in the line of succession. From William's perspective, there was no real pressure on him to conform while growing up. He enjoyed the freedom to lead a life wholly unsuited for a future king, and he embraced it. At the age of 13, William enlisted into the Royal Navy, and while one might assume that a privileged prince might undertake a cushy assignment close to home, William ventured into war for his nation at an age when most individuals were in 8th grade. He served in North America and the Caribbean, even participating in the Battle of Cape St. Vincent in 1780. Additionally, he forged a close relationship with the renowned Admiral Horatio Nelson, who achieved crucial victories in the Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars. When William eventually ascended to the throne several decades later, his 12 years of service earned him the moniker of the Sailor King. By the time William reached his teenage years and joined the Royal Navy, the United States had declared its independence and the Revolutionary War was in progress. William served in New York, making him the sole member of the British royal family to set foot on American soil during the Revolution. It's an impressive distinction for a young man who had only just started shaving, and of course there were drawbacks. William understood that his princely status made him an exceptionally valuable target for the rebel forces. Yet despite the obvious danger, he took pleasure in strolling around the city unaccompanied. Perhaps being captured for ransom was on the bucket list. Rumours about these excursions eventually reached General George Washington, the Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army and future face of the $1 bill. Washington promptly sanctioned a plot to seize the adolescent prince, and in a letter to his accomplice he expressed enthusiasm, stating that the boldness evident in your plan to surprise Prince William Henry and Admiral Digby in their quarters deserves praise. In other words, Operation Abduct the Posh Teenager was a go. Washington authorized them to execute the plan in any manner and at the opportune time. But he cautioned against showing disrespect or harm to the prince or admiral. Just because it's a kidnapping doesn't mean it has to be impolite. The message was clear. Washington's determination to capture Prince William knew no bounds. He was adamant about bringing the young prince to him by any means necessary. Yet fortune favoured William, as the redcoats caught wind of the audacious plot and promptly assigned guards to him, ensuring his safety. But William, undeterred by the looming threat of Washington's gung-ho abduction plan, found a clever solution. He simply brought the guards along with him on his excursions around the city, outsmarting Washington's every move. William's naval career spanned an impressive 12 years, although naval career, in this case, often meant revelling in merriment and mischief while in close proximity to the water. He became well known for his penchant for drinking and causing trouble during his time in the Navy. Among his less regal exploits was a drunken brawl in Gibraltar that made headlines. Despite his rowdy reputation, William decided to retire from active service in 1790 at the age of 25. However, retirement from the Navy did not mean retirement from his sailor-like drinking habits. And when war erupted between Britain and France in 1790, William's thirst for adventure resurfaced, and he repeatedly sought command of a ship. He delivered a series of speeches in the House of Lords, some of which were well received, while others caused great concern for being visibly drunk. These erratic episodes, coupled with William's recent misfortune of falling down a flight of stairs and breaking his arm, led the king to firmly believe that William should not return to the Navy. Despite being denied the opportunity to command a ship, William remained eager to be involved in the action, persistently raising the subject whenever the British found themselves embroiled in conflict. However, the king and the Admiralty continued to turn him down, citing his personal issues as a hindrance. Undeterred, William sought alternative ways to be close to the action. In 1813, he witnessed the bombardment of the Antwerp and atop a church steeple, risking his life as shells rained down upon him. It is even rumoured that he received a contusion from the explosion of a shell, though some speculate that he may have even caused the explosion himself. According to a modern account, during the final attack, a bullet pierced through his coat, narrowly missing him. Excluded from the Navy, William decided to venture into politics, a popular career choice for those born into a royal family. While most individuals experience a high-profile dismissal only to find themselves working mundane jobs, William took a different path. He served in the House of Lords, where he expressed opinions that in hindsight did not age very well. For instance, he staunchly opposed the abolishment of slavery in British colonies, arguing that enslaved individuals in North America and the Caribbean were content in their state of humble happiness. His views on this matter were undeniably problematic. However, not all of William's beliefs were steeped in authoritarianism. He also advocated for progressive laws concerning religious freedom and the treatment of adultery, showcasing a more enlightened side of his character. Despite his tumultuous reputation, William managed to serve a brief but eventful stint as Lord High Admiral in 1827. However, his disdain for authority clashed with the Admiralty officers he was required to work with. The conflicts reached a tipping point when William decided to make a dramatic statement. Instead of storming off to the pub, he took matters into his own hands and commanded a squadron of ships, disappearing for a whopping 10 days. As both Lord High Admiral and a prince, he possessed the audacity to undertake such a bold move. King George IV, his brother, had no choice but to request his resignation from the position. In his personal life, William had a long-standing relationship with an Irish actress and comedian known as Dorothea Jordan. Although they never married, their love knew no bounds as they welcomed 10 children together. However, their circumstances changed when Princess Charlotte of Wales, the daughter of William's elder brother George, tragically passed away in 1811. This sudden loss meant that King George III had no legitimate grandchildren, thereby placing the burden on William and his brothers to produce an heir. As a result, William and Dorothea separated, and he went on to marry Princess Adeline of Saxe-Meiningen, a woman that was half of his age. While they were unable to conceive a surviving heir, they reportedly enjoyed a blissful marriage. In 1820, King George III, who had reigned for nearly 60 years, passed away, and at this point his 2 eldest sons, George and Frederick, were approaching their 60s and weren't in the best of health. Additionally, they had no heirs to continue the line of succession, and when Frederick died in 1827, William unexpectedly found himself as the heir presumptive. The realization that he had a legitimate chance at becoming king prompted him to reduce his drinking and take up his beloved long walks again. With George Washington long gone, William no longer feared for his previous abduction attempts, and upon the passing of King George IV in 1830, William ascended the throne before becoming the monarch of the United Kingdom. At the age of 64, King William IV became the oldest king to be crowned in British history, a record that he held for quite some time, until recently broken by the coronation of King Charles III at the age of 73 on the 6th of May 2023. Now, when people envision the British royal family, the iconic Buckingham Palace comes to mind. However, it may surprise many to know that there was a time when a king wished to give it away. That king was none other than William himself, who attempted to disown the property on more than one occasion. William's informal nature as a monarch, coupled with his seafaring background, likely influenced this unconventional approach. King William IV, the unconventional ruler of the British throne, had a unique approach to royal living. Unlike his predecessors, he refused to reside in Buckingham Palace, finding the grandeur and formality of the place discomforting. His aversion led him to offer the palace to the British Army as high-class barracks, but that plan didn't materialise. Undeterred, he then attempted to transform Buckingham Palace into the new Parliament, after the previous Houses of Parliament were destroyed in a fire in 1834. However, Parliament politely declined his proposal, leaving his vision unrealised. Despite his relatively short reign of only 7 years, William IV had a crucial objective in mind: to outlive his niece, Princess Victoria, until she had reached the age of 18. Victoria, the daughter of William's deceased younger brother Edward, held the key to the succession. While William held affection for Victoria, he held a strong dislike for her mother, the Duchess of Kent. Driven by spite towards the Duchess, William was determined to ensure that Victoria would never be under her mother's regency. His tenacity paid off as he managed to survive long enough to witness Victoria assume the throne just 1 month after her 18th birthday, marking the beginning of the renowned Victorian era, the era adored by steampunk enthusiasts. So what are your thoughts on William IV? Was he a charming scoundrel or a daring and impulsive individual? Queen Victoria's father. Prince Edward, Duke of Kent and Strathearn, was a remarkable figure in British history. Born on the 2nd of November 1767, he was the fourth son and fifth child of King George III, but his legacy extends far beyond his royal lineage. In 1799, Prince Edward was bestowed with the prestigious titles of Duke of Kent and Strathearn, as well as Earl of Dublin. This marked a turning point in his life, propelling him into positions of great importance and influence. Shortly thereafter, he assumed command as a general and became the commander-in-chief of British forces in the maritime provinces of North America. This strategic appointment showcased his military prowess and leadership skills. The Duke's journey took an adventurous turn when he became the first member of the royal family to reside in North America for an extended period. From 1791 to 1800, he immersed himself in the vibrant cultures of the New World, fostering a unique understanding of the land and its people. In fact, in 1794 he achieved yet another groundbreaking milestone by becoming the first prince to set foot in the United States, embarking on a remarkable journey from Lower Canada to Boston on foot. During his time in North America, Prince Edward made an important contribution to the cultural and linguistic fabric of the region. On the 27th of June 1792, he coined the term Canadian to encompass both French and English settlers in Upper and Lower Canada. This momentous act of linguistic diplomacy aimed to bridge the divide between the two groups, and it occurred during a riot at a polling station in Charlesburg, Lower Canada. Consequently, he earned the enduring title of the Father of the Canadian Crown, symbolizing his profound impact on the development of Canada. Prince Edward's illustrious career continued to flourish upon his return to Europe, and in 1802 he was appointed Governor of Gibraltar, a position he held until his untimely death in 1820. Throughout his life he demonstrated a deep commitment to the armed forces, culminating in his appointment as Field Marshal of the Forces in 1805. Although Prince Edward's time on earth was tragically cut short, his legacy endured through his only child, Victoria. 17 years after his passing, Victoria ascended to the throne and became the iconic Queen of the United Kingdom. Thus his spirit lives on, forever intertwined with the pages of history. Prince Edward made his grand entrance into the world on the 2nd of November 1767 as a cherished offspring of King George III and Queen Charlotte. Being fourth in line to the British throne, his birth held great significance for the royal family and the nation. Coincidentally, he was named after his late uncle, the Duke of York in Albany, who had recently passed away and was laid to rest at Westminster Abbey on the eve of Edward's arrival. The young prince received his baptism on the 30th of November 1767 in a solemn ceremony that united him with his godparents. These esteemed individuals included the hereditary Prince of Brunswick-Lunenburg, who stood as a proxy for his paternal uncle through marriage, the Earl of Hertford, the Earl of Huntingdon, and who acted on behalf of Duke Charles of Mecklenburg-Strelitz, Edward's maternal uncle, and the hereditary Princess of Brunswick-Wolfenbüttel, represented by a proxy due to her absence. Additionally, the Landgravine of Hesse-Kassel, Edward's paternal grandfather's sister, found her presence replaced by the Duchess of Argyll, who served as Lady of the Bedchamber to the Queen. This baptism marked a significant moment in Prince Edward's early life, as it connected him to a network of influential figures and established his place within the royal lineage. Prince Edward embarked on a distinguished military career that spanned continents and made a lasting impact on history. He began his training in Hanover in 1785, but changed plans upon the advice of the Duke of York, pursuing military education in Hanover. At 18, he became a brevet colonel in the British Army and continued his education in Geneva. He joined the influential Masonic Lodge de l'Union. In 1789, Prince Edward became Colonel of the Royal Fusiliers. However, missteps led to his exile to Gibraltar as a regular officer. In 1791, he transferred to Quebec, becoming the first royal to tour Upper Canada. Prince Edward rose to Major General and displayed courage during the battle. And in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where he served as Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Navy's North American Station, he shaped the city's military defences and transformed a residence into an enchanting prince's lodge. After a fall from his horse in 1798, he returned to England and was granted prestigious titles, along with the role of Commander-in-Chief of British forces in North America. Appointed governor of Gibraltar, his strict discipline caused a mutiny, but he refused to return to England until his successor arrived. He was promoted to Field Marshal and appointed Ranger of Hampton Court Park, and Prince Edward balanced military discipline with friendliness, supporting social experiments and advocating for Catholic emancipation. Prince Edward's career showcased his passion for military service, his impact on various regions, and his commitment to social causes. Following the untimely death of Princess Charlotte of Wales in 1817, the British royal succession faced uncertainty. The Prince Regent George IV and his brother Frederick, Duke of York and Albany, were estranged from their wives and had no legitimate surviving children. The king's daughters were childless, and his unmarried sons rushed to secure marriages to ensure an heir to the throne. Among them was Prince Edward, Duke of Kent. At the age of 50, Prince Edward sought a suitable marriage partner and became engaged to Princess Victoria of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, the sister-in-law of his late niece, Princess Charlotte. The couple married on the 29th of May 1818 at a palace in Coburg and had a second ceremony on the 11th of July 1818 at Kew Palace in Surrey. Princess Victoria was the daughter of Francis, Duke of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, and the sister of Prince Leopold, who had been married to Princess Charlotte. She was a widow, having been previously married to Emmett Carl, 2nd Prince of Lenegan, with whom she had 2 children. On the 24th of May 1819, the Duke and Duchess of Kent welcomed their only child, a daughter named Alexandrina Victoria. The Duke took great pride in his daughter, even predicting that she would one day become the Queen of the United Kingdom. Throughout his life, the Duke of Kent had various reported mistresses. While in Geneva, he had relationships with Adeline Dubus and Anne Marie. Madame de Saint Laurent, also known as Julie de Saint Laurent, accompanied him to Canada in 1791 and remained by his side for 28 years until his marriage to Princess Victoria in 1818. Despite claims of descendants from these relationships, thorough research has confirmed that no children were born from any of these unions. Prince Edward's marriage to Princess Victoria solidified his place in the royal succession and eventually led to the birth of Queen Victoria, one of the most significant monarchs in British history. In his later life and in 1801, the Duke of Kent acquired Castle Hill Lodge in Ealing, West London, purchasing it from Maria Fitzherbert. Architect James Wyatt was enlisted to enhance the property, and over £100,000, or $8.1 million in 2021, was invested in its renovation. Notably, the Duke's neighbours from 1815 to 1817 were John Quincy Adams, the future US President, and his English wife Louisa. Adams documented attending church with the Duke of Kent and hearing a sermon by Dr. Crane in August 1815. After the birth of Princess Victoria in 1819, the Duke and Duchess sought a cost-effective residence to manage their significant debts. They opted to lease Walbrook Cottage, situated by the seaside in Sidmouth, Devon. They intended to keep a low profile during their stay. Tragically, the Duke of Kent succumbed to pneumonia on the 23rd of January 1820 at Walbrook Cottage in Sidmouth. He was laid to rest in St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, and his passing occurred just 6 days before the death of his father, King George III, and less than a year after the birth of his daughter. As the Duke predeceased his father and elder brothers, and none of his elder brothers had surviving legitimate children, his daughter Victoria ascended to the throne following the demise of her uncle King William IV in 1837. She went on to reign until 1901. In 1829, the Duke's former aide acquired Castle Hill Lodge from the Duchess in an attempt to alleviate her financial burdens. The debts were ultimately settled after Victoria assumed the throne and gradually paid them off from her own income. Queen Victoria's father. Prince Edward, Duke of Kent and Strathearn, was a remarkable figure in British history. Born on the 2nd of November 1767, he was the fourth son and fifth child of King George III, but his legacy extends far beyond his royal lineage. In 1799, Prince Edward was bestowed with the prestigious titles of Duke of Kent and Strathearn, as well as Earl of Dublin. This marked a turning point in his life, propelling him into positions of great importance and influence. Shortly thereafter, he assumed command as a general and became the commander-in-chief of British forces in the maritime provinces of North America. This strategic appointment showcased his military prowess and leadership skills. The Duke's journey took an adventurous turn when he became the first member of the royal family to reside in North America for an extended period. From 1791 to 1800, he immersed himself in the vibrant cultures of the New World, fostering a unique understanding of the land and its people. In fact, in 1794 he achieved yet another groundbreaking milestone by becoming the first prince to set foot in the United States, embarking on a remarkable journey from Lower Canada to Boston on foot. During his time in North America, Prince Edward made an important contribution to the cultural and linguistic fabric of the region. On the 27th of June 1792, he coined the term Canadian to encompass both French and English settlers in Upper and Lower Canada. This momentous act of linguistic diplomacy aimed to bridge the divide between the two groups, and it occurred during a riot at a polling station in Charlesburg, Lower Canada. Consequently, he earned the enduring title of the Father of the Canadian Crown, symbolizing his profound impact on the development of Canada. Prince Edward's illustrious career continued to flourish upon his return to Europe, and in 1802 he was appointed Governor of Gibraltar, a position he held until his untimely death in 1820. Throughout his life he demonstrated a deep commitment to the armed forces, culminating in his appointment as Field Marshal of the Forces in 1805. Although Prince Edward's time on earth was tragically cut short, his legacy endured through his only child, Victoria. 17 years after his passing, Victoria ascended to the throne and became the iconic Queen of the United Kingdom. Thus his spirit lives on, forever intertwined with the pages of history. Prince Edward made his grand entrance into the world on the 2nd of November 1767 as a cherished offspring of King George III and Queen Charlotte. Being fourth in line to the British throne, his birth held great significance for the royal family and the nation. Coincidentally, he was named after his late uncle, the Duke of York and Albany, who had recently passed away and was laid to rest at Westminster Abbey on the eve of Edward's arrival. The young prince received his baptism on the 30th of November 1767 in a solemn ceremony that united him with his godparents. These esteemed individuals included the hereditary Prince of Brunswick-Lunenburg, who stood as a proxy for his paternal uncle through marriage, the Earl of Hertford, the Earl of Huntingdon, and who acted on behalf of Duke Charles of Mecklenburg-Strelitz, Edward's maternal uncle, and the hereditary Princess of Brunswick-Wolfenbüttel, represented by a proxy due to her absence. Additionally, the Landgravine of Hesse-Kassel, Edward's paternal grandfather's sister, found her presence replaced by the Duchess of Argyll, who served as Lady of the Bedchamber to the Queen. This baptism marked a significant moment in Prince Edward's early life, as it connected him to a network of influential figures and established his place within the royal lineage. Prince Edward embarked on a distinguished military career that spanned continents and made a lasting impact on history. He began his training in Hanover in 1785, but changed plans upon the advice of the Duke of York, pursuing military education in Hanover. At 18, he became a brevet colonel in the British Army and continued his education in Geneva. He joined the influential Masonic Lodge de l'Union. In 1789, Prince Edward became Colonel of the Royal Fusiliers. However, missteps led to his exile to Gibraltar as a regular officer. In 1791, he transferred to Quebec, becoming the first royal to tour Upper Canada. Prince Edward rose to Major General and displayed courage during the battle. And in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where he served as Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Navy's North American Station, he shaped the city's military defences and transformed a residence into an enchanting prince's lodge. After a fall from his horse in 1798, he returned to England and was granted prestigious titles, along with the role of Commander-in-Chief of British forces in North America. Appointed Governor of Gibraltar, his strict discipline caused a mutiny, but he refused to return to England until his successor arrived. He was promoted to Field Marshal and appointed Ranger of Hampton Court Park, and Prince Edward balanced military discipline with friendliness, supporting social experiments and advocating for Catholic emancipation. Prince Edward's career showcased his passion for military service, his impact on various regions, and his commitment to social causes. Following the untimely death of Princess Charlotte of Wales in 1817, the British royal succession faced uncertainty. The Prince Regent George IV and his brother Frederick, Duke of York and Albany, were estranged from their wives and had no legitimate surviving children. The king's daughters were childless, and his unmarried sons rushed to secure marriages to ensure an heir to the throne. Among them was Prince Edward, Duke of Kent. At the age of 50, Prince Edward sought a suitable marriage partner and became engaged to Princess Victoria of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, the sister-in-law of his late niece, Princess Charlotte. The couple married on the 29th of May 1818 at a palace in Coburg, and had a second ceremony on the 11th of July 1818 at Kew Palace in Surrey. Princess Victoria was the daughter of Francis, Duke of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, and the sister of Prince Leopold, who had been married to Princess Charlotte. She was a widow, having been previously married to Emmett Carl, 2nd Prince of Leningen, with whom she had 2 children. On the 24th of May 1819, the Duke and Duchess of Kent welcomed their only child, a daughter named Alexandrina Victoria. The Duke took great pride in his daughter, even predicting that she would one day become the Queen of the United Kingdom. Throughout his life, the Duke of Kent had various reported mistresses. While in Geneva, he had relationships with Adeline Dubus and Anne Marie. Madame de Saint-Laurent, also known as Julie de Saint-Laurent, accompanied him to Canada in 1791 and remained by his side for 28 years until his marriage to Princess Victoria in 1818. Despite claims of descendants from these relationships, thorough research has confirmed that no children were born from any of these unions. Prince Edward's marriage to Princess Victoria solidified his place in the royal succession and eventually led to the birth of Queen Victoria, one of the most significant monarchs in British history. In his later life and in 1801, the Duke of Kent acquired Castle Hill Lodge in Ealing, West London, purchasing it from Maria Fitzherbert. Architect James Wyatt was enlisted to enhance the property, and over £100,000, or £8.1 million in 2021, was invested in its renovation. Notably, the Duke's neighbours from 1815 to 1817 were John Quincy Adams, the future US President, and his English wife Louisa. Adams documented attending church with the Duke of Kent and hearing a sermon by Dr. Crane in August 1815. After the birth of Princess Victoria in 1819, the Duke and Duchess sought a cost-effective residence to manage their significant debts. They opted to lease Walbrook Cottage, situated by the seaside in Sidmouth, Devon. They intended to keep a low profile during their stay. Tragically, the Duke of Kent succumbed to pneumonia on the 23rd of January 1820 at Walbrook Cottage in Sidmouth. He was laid to rest in St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, and his passing occurred just 6 days before the death of his father, King George III, and less than a year after the birth of his daughter. As the Duke predeceased his father and elder brothers, and none of his elder brothers had surviving legitimate children, his daughter Victoria ascended to the throne following the demise of her uncle King William IV in 1837. She went on to reign until 1901. In 1829, the Duke's former aide acquired Castle Hill Lodge from the Duchess in an attempt to alleviate her financial burdens. The debts were ultimately settled after Victoria assumed the throne and gradually paid them off from her own income. The death of Prince Alfred. Prince Alfred of Great Britain was the youngest son and 14th child of King George III and Queen Charlotte. Born on the 22nd of September 1780 at Windsor Castle, he belonged to the House of Hanover. Unfortunately, Alfred's health was never robust, and his condition worsened after receiving a smallpox vaccine in 1782. Tragically, he passed away at a very young age of only 2, causing profound grief for the royal family. Only 6 months later, his brother, Prince Octavius, also succumbed to an early death, compounding their sorrow. Throughout his life, Prince Alfred struggled with various health issues. His birth brought happiness to his family, especially to his older sister, Princess Sofia, who affectionately referred to him as her grandson. However, from the beginning, Alfred's frailty was evident, as he experienced skin eruptions and a persistent cough. At the time of Prince Alfred's life, smallpox was a dreaded disease, posing a threat to both royalty and commoners alike. Unfortunately, medical advancements were lacking, making it a frequently fatal affliction. Queen Charlotte, Alfred's mother, strongly advocated for vaccines and had her royal children undergo the procedure. Vaccines gained popularity in Britain when King George II's daughters, who were then the Prince of Wales, underwent the process in 1721. In 1782, Prince Alfred himself was vaccinated against smallpox, but the procedure had a detrimental impact on his health. He suffered eruptions on his face and eyelids, as well as chest troubles due to the inoculation. Seeking recovery, he was taken to Deal in company of his governess, Lady Charlotte Finch, and nurse, Mrs. Cheveley. They hoped that the sea air, water bathing, and horseback riding would improve his condition. Lady Charlotte shared in letters to her friend Mary Hamilton that the sea bathing seemed to agree with the young prince, and his appetite was good, indicating potential improvement. During his stay at Deal, Prince Alfred's charm and good nature endeared him to many, and despite some signs of progress, he continued to experience outbreaks and chest issues. By early July, his condition began to improve, but later that month it deteriorated to the point where he could no longer walk. Consequently, in August, Prince Alfred, Lady Charlotte, and Mrs. Cheveley returned to Windsor Castle due to his worsening condition. Medical consultations were held, and it was concluded that the young boy had only weeks to live. Tragically, Prince Alfred passed away on the 20th of August between 4 and 5 in the afternoon at Lower Lodge, Windsor Great Park, just a month shy of his 2nd birthday. His death deeply saddened the royal family and left a lasting impact on all that knew him. Despite not following mourning traditions for royal children younger than 7, Prince Alfred's parents were deeply affected by his passing. Lady Charlotte reported that Queen Charlotte cried profusely and was greatly hurt by the loss, and the king shared in her grief as well. In August, the Queen expressed her affectionate gratitude to Lady Charlotte for taking care of little Alfred by gifting her a locket containing a lock of his hair, adorned with pearls and amethysts. Prince Alfred was laid to rest at Westminster Abbey on the 27th of August, but his remains were later moved to the Royal Vault in St George's Chapel, Windsor Castle, in February 1820. Tragically, 6 months after Alfred's passing, his 4-year-old elder brother, Octavius, also succumbed to smallpox after vaccination, further devastating the king. Although both losses were heart-wrenching, the king was particularly impacted by Octavius's death, expressing that he would have also died if it had been Octavius instead of Alfred. George III continued to mourn the deaths of his sons, and even a year later, after Prince Alfred's passing, seeing his posthumous portrait in a family painting by Thomas Gainsborough brought tears to his 3 elder sisters, with the king and queen visibly moved as well. In 1812, during one of his bouts of madness, King George had imaginary conversations with his 2 youngest sons. Prince Alfred was the first of George III and Queen Charlotte's children to pass away in 1782, while his older sister Princess Mary, the last survivor of their 15 children, passed away in 1857. Interestingly, among their first 14 children, Alfred was unique in never having the opportunity to have an older sibling during his lifetime, as the only child, younger than him, was born after his death. The heartbreaking death of Prince Octavius. Meet Prince Octavius of Great Britain, a captivating and endearing young soul who graced the world on the 23rd of February 1779. Born as the 8th son of King George III and Queen Charlotte, his name, derived from Latin, proudly symbolised his position as the 8th son. The kingdom rejoiced, and even the House of Lords sent heartfelt congratulations to the royal family upon his birth. Blessed with innocence and a sweet disposition, Octavius enchanted everybody around him. His godparents, including distinguished members of royal circles, showered him with love during his christening at St James's Palace. As a young child, he showed remarkable promise and was adored by his father, King George III, who cherished his youngest sons, Octavius and Alfred, dearly. King George III broke the norms of his time, openly expressing affection and indulgence towards his children. He revelled in moments of joy, carrying Octavius in his arms and doting on his other siblings during family gatherings. Observers were moved by the king's warmth and the unique way he and Queen Charlotte raised their children. One touching encounter was recounted at the Queen's Lodge in Windsor, where Octavius playfully interacted with a friend of the king, Mrs. Delaney, capturing hearts with his innocence and affection. Tragically, fate had other plans for young Octavius, and at the tender age of 4 he fell victim to illness shortly after being vaccinated against smallpox. His untimely death left his parents devastated, and King George III in particular was haunted by hallucinations of his beloved youngest sons. Prince Octavius' short but captivating life remains an enduring part of Great Britain's history, a testament to the love and affection that flourished within the royal family during those memorable days. In the enchanting tapestry of the royal family, young Octavius found his closest bond with Princess Sofia, his sister and kindred spirit, who affectionately referred to him as her son. Together they embarked on delightful escapades with their siblings, Elizabeth and Edward, journeying to the picturesque shores of Eastbourne on the Sussex coast. There, amid the invigorating sea breeze, Octavius revelled in the joy of summer, creating cherished memories that would linger in his heart forever. As time unfolded, Octavius welcomed the arrival of his younger brother, Prince Alfred, and embraced his newfound role as an elder sibling when he was just 19 months old. But fate dealt a cruel blow when young Alfred's life was tragically cut short on the 20th of August 1782, leaving Octavius bereft of his beloved brother once more. The grief-stricken King George, expressing his profound sorrow, confided that had it been Octavius who passed away, the pain would have been unbearable. Despite his tender age, Octavius was a remarkable child and an endearing nature that captivated all who knew him. Known for his exceptional docility and an abundance of good-natured charm, he became the joy of the entire household. Even at the tender age of 5, Octavius stood out as an extraordinary individual, displaying qualities that endeared him to all. Among the illustrious progeny of the royal lineage, Octavius shone brightly, earning accolades as one of the finest and most beloved members of the family. His radiant spirit and unforgettable presence left an undeniable mark on the hearts of those fortunate enough to witness the essence of this very cherished prince. After the heart-wrenching loss of Prince Alfred, a beautiful portrait titled The Apotheosis of Prince Octavius immortalized the young prince alongside heavenly angels. The siblings Octavius and Sofia, 6 months after Alfred's passing, were taken to Kew Palace for a smallpox vaccine. While Sofia recovered unscathed, fate dealt a cruel hand to Octavius and he fell very ill, ultimately succumbing on the fateful evening of the 3rd of May 1783 at the tender age of only 4. Lady Charlotte Finch, the governess of the royal children, lamented that hope for his recovery had vanished from the moment that he fell ill. Tragically, Octavius became the last member of the British royal family to contract smallpox, and despite assertions from the royal household that his death was not linked to the vaccine, speculations still lingered, while historical accounts varied on the cause. Octavius was laid to rest beside his brother Alfred at Westminster Abbey on the 10th of May, a sorrowful occasion that deeply affected Queen Charlotte, who was carrying her youngest child, Princess Amelia, at the time. The grief that followed Octavius' passing was profound. King George III, who adored his children dearly, was devastated, and the court and caretakers were equally distraught. The king's anguish was evident when he proclaimed, "There will be no heaven for me if Octavius is not there." Artist Thomas Gainsborough painting of the royal family, including Octavius, brought tears to the eyes of his sisters and touched their parents' hearts. Octavius's untimely departure haunted King George, who imagined conversations with his beloved departed sons, even during his bouts of madness in later years. In one heartbreaking incident during a fit of madness, the king mistook a pillow for Octavius, a poignant reminder of the profound grief that forever lingered. The legacy of Prince Octavius, his radiant spirit, and the love that he kindled among his family and subjects endure as cherished memories in the annals of British history. Welcome to Past People. To support my channel, please subscribe. The life of the dashing Duke, Prince Adolphus of Cambridge. Meet the charismatic Prince Adolphus, Duke of Cambridge, a man of numerous accolades and remarkable lineage. Born on the 24th of February in 1774 at the splendid Buckingham House, which was fondly referred to as the Queen's House at that time, he emerged as the 10th child and 7th son of King George III and Queen Charlotte of the UK. Amongst his many distinctions, he held the illustrious title of Duke of Cambridge from 1801 until his passing. Additionally, he assumed the role of Viceroy of Hanover on behalf of his esteemed brothers George IV and William IV. Intriguingly, Prince Adolphus's life took an enchanting turn in 1818 when he wed Princess Augusta of Hesse Castle. Their union bore the fruits of love in the form of 3 wonderful children, George, Augusta, and Mary Adelaide. Prince Adolphus's early days were nothing short of captivating. His baptism, a splendid affair that took place on the 24th of March 1774 in the Grand Great Council Chamber at St James's Palace, was a notable event. Frederick Cornwallis, the Archbishop of Canterbury, officiated the ceremony with a distinguished assembly of godparents, including John Adolphus of Saxe-Gotha-Altenburg, Landgrave Charles of Hesse Castle, and Princess Wilhelmina of Orange, who all played their roles with great grandeur. Adolphus's education was a fascinating journey as well. He embarked on his scholarly pursuits at home under the careful guidance of tutors until the arrival of summer 1786. At that point, his educational voyage led him to the prestigious University of Göttingen in Germany, accompanied by his brothers Prince Ernest and Prince Augustus. This trio of royal scholars would go on to leave an undeniable mark on history. His heroic journey through battlefields. Prince Adolphus, a man of royal lineage and unyielding valour, embarked on a military career that unfolded like an epic tale. His honorary position as Colonel-in-Chief of the Hanoverian Guard Foot Regiment from 1789 to 1803 marked the beginning of his martial journey. However, his true martial prowess began to shine in 1791 when he and his brother Prince Ernest journeyed to Hanover under the tutelage of the distinguished Hanoverian commander, Field Marshal Wilhelm von Weytag. The baptism of fire came swiftly during the Flanders campaign in 1793, where Adolphus tasted the thrill of Battle of Famous on the 23rd of May. The pages of history also bear witness to his indomitable spirit, for he was wounded and captured at the Battle of Hondscoot on the 6th of September, only to be swiftly rescued from the clutches of the enemy. Promoted to the rank of Hanoverian General Major, Prince Adolphus demonstrated his mettle by commanding a Hessian brigade under his paternal great-uncle, General Johann Ludwig, during the autumn of 1794. He further etched his legacy by leading the Hanoverian Guards during their strategic retreat through Holland. Remaining resolute in Germany, Adolphus assumed command of the brigade within the Corps of Observation from the 22nd of October 1796 to the 12th of January 1798. His military accolades also extended to the British Army, where he became a colonel in 1794 and earned the rank of lieutenant general on the 24th of August 1798. In a remarkable twist, Adolphus's name became synonymous with valour as he attended the founding of Adolfsdorf in 1800, a village nestled in the electorate of Hanover, an act that immortalised his legacy. The tumultuous War of the Second Coalition against France presented another challenging chapter in Prince Adolphus's life. In 1801 he embarked on a journey to Berlin, striving to prevent the impending Prussian occupation of the electorate. However, despite his tireless efforts, the demands of France prevailed, leading to the unfortunate commandeering of Hanoverian troops, Demarcation Army. In 1803 he assumed the mantle of senior army commander, but faced a bleak situation with advancing French forces on one side and 24,000 Prussian soldiers on the other. Unwilling to engage in discussions of capitulation, he handed over his command and withdrew to England, leaving behind a plan to recruit more soldiers in Hanover, which regrettably failed. Nonetheless, adversity only fueled Prince Adolphus's determination, and in 1803 he was appointed as Commander-in-Chief of the prestigious King's German Legion. His unwavering commitment earned him the esteemed rank of Field Marshal in 1813. Prince Adolphus's military endeavours extended to his roles as Colonel-in-Chief of the Coldstream Regiment of Foot Guards and on the 60th Regiment of Foot, a testament of his unwavering dedication to the armed forces. Furthermore, after the fall of Napoleon's empire, he took on the responsibilities of military governor of Hanover from the 4th of November 1813 to the 24th of October 1816, followed by the position of Governor-General of Hanover from the 24th of October 1860 to the 20th of June 1837, during which he also served as Viceroy from the 22nd of February 1831. His promotion to Field Marshal on the 26th of November 1813 crowned his military achievements. A true patron of the Cambridge Dragoner Regiment of the Hanoverian Army, Prince Adolphus's legacy endures through history. The march of the Hanoverian Cambridge Dragoner Regiment remains an integral part of the traditional music repertoire, while their barrack stood as a testament to his enduring influence until 1995. In the wake of the tragic passing of Princess Charlotte in 1817, a solemn duty fell upon the Duke of Cambridge. His task was no ordinary one: to find a suitable bride for his elder, yet unmarried brother, the Duke of Clarence, who would later ascend to the throne as William IV. The urgency lay in securing heirs for the throne, as Charlotte had been the sole legitimate grandchild of King George III, despite the monarch having a dozen surviving children. Amidst a series of promising, but ultimately fruitless attempts, the Duke of Clarence finally fixed his gaze upon Princess Adelaide of Saxe-Meiningen. With this union, the path was cleared for the Duke of Cambridge to embark on his own quest for love. On a fateful day in history, the Duke of Cambridge exchanged vows not once, but twice. The first ceremony took place in Castle, Hesse, on the 7th of May. The grandeur continued as the couple sealed their love in a second ceremony at the opulent Buckingham Palace on the 1st of June 1818. His chosen bride was none other than Augusta, his second cousin and the third daughter of Prince Frederick of Hesse. But Prince Adolphus's life was not solely marked by romance, he also held a prestigious position. And from 1816 to 1837, he served as a viceroy of the Kingdom of Hanover on behalf of his elder brothers, George and William. This role placed him in the position of great responsibility and influence. However, the course of history took an unexpected turn with the ascent of his niece, Queen Victoria, to the British throne on the 20th of June 1837. This momentous event marked the end of the 122-year union between the crowns of the United Kingdom and Hanover, owing to Hanover's adherence to Salic law. Consequently, the Duke of Cambridge's tenure as viceroy came to a close, and he returned to his homeland. His life's tapestry unfolded. The Duke of Cambridge reached the final chapter. On the 8th of July 1850, he took his last breath at Cambridge House, a stately residence on Piccadilly in London. His resting place was a specially constructed extension to St Anne's Church in Kew. Years later, in 1889, the Duchess joined him in eternal slumber, resting by his side. In 1930, their remains were solemnly transferred to the hallowed grounds at St George's Chapel in Windsor Castle, where they found their final resting place. The legacy of the Duke of Cambridge lived on through his only son, Prince George, who would succeed to his esteemed peerages, ensuring that the story of this remarkable royal family endured through the annals of time. Welcome to Past People. To support these videos, please subscribe. The life of Prince Frederick, the son of King George III. Prince Frederick, the Duke of York and Albany, was born on the 16th of August 1763 at St James's Palace. He was the second child of King George III and Queen Charlotte. At just 6 months old, his father appointed him as the Prince Bishop of Lower Saxony, a bishopric in the Duchy of Brunswick-Lunenburg. This place had a unique arrangement where it was ruled alternatively by the Catholic bishop and a Protestant bishop. Given that Frederick's father was also the elective of Hanover, he had the privilege of choosing the occupant. In 1767, Frederick was honoured as a Knight of the Most Honourable Order of the Bath, and in 1771 he became a Knight of the Garter. His upbringing and education took place alongside his elder brother at Kew Palace, under the guidance of Robert Darcy, the 4th Earl of Holderness, as their governor, and William Markham, Bishop of Chester, as their chief tutor. Later, Richard Hurd, Bishop of Worcester, took over as chief tutor. Frederick's education was rigorous, including subjects like riding and fencing. In 1780, it was decided that Frederick would pursue a military career, and he was commissioned as a colonel. He was sent to Hanover from 1781 to 1787 for military training, supervised by Lieutenant Colonel Robert Fulk Gravel. During this time, Frederick participated in manoeuvres and attended the University of Göttingen, alongside his brothers Edward, Ernest Augustus, and Adolphus. In 1784, Frederick attained the rank of colonel. On the 27th of November 1784, Frederick was elevated to the title of Duke of York and Albany and Earl of Ulster. He also became a member of the Privy Council in 1787 upon his return to England, subsequently taking a seat in the House of Lords. When his father's mental health deteriorated and the Regency Bill was proposed, Frederick strongly opposed it. In 1791, he married Princess Frederica, Charlotte of Prussia, in Charlottenburg Palace, with a second wedding ceremony held at Buckingham Palace later that year. Unfortunately, their marriage was troubled, marked by Frederick's infidelity, and they were unable to have children. In 1794 they separated amicably and did not cause any scandals together. In 1793 Frederick was promoted to full general, a significant year as it marked the beginning of the Flanders campaign. This coalition of military forces aimed to invade France and halt the rise of the First French Republic under Napoleon's leadership. Frederick led the British forces during this campaign, experiencing both victories and defeats. However, in 1795 he was recalled to England, and the coalition eventually had to withdraw. The Battle of Tourcoing in 1795 led to the creation of a famous nursery rhyme inspired by Frederick's defeat. In the recognition of his military leadership, Frederick was promoted to Field Marshal and became the Commander-in-Chief of the forces of Great Britain and Ireland in 1795. He initiated several reforms in the British Army and in 1801 founded the Royal Military College in Sandhurst, a renowned institution for the training of infantry and cavalry officers. His contributions to the British military continued to shape its future. In 1803, Frederick took on the crucial responsibility of preparing the United Kingdom against Napoleon's planned invasion, a significant threat at the time. Thanks to his numerous reforms, the British Army became more robust than ever before, a strength that would prove invaluable in subsequent Peninsular War, ultimately leading to Napoleon's defeat. During this period, Frederick's personal life took a turbulent turn. In 1803, he embarked on an affair with Marianne Clark, which would have lasting repercussions. By 1809, charges were brought against Frederick in the House of Commons by Gulliat Bordel. These charges alleged that Frederick allowed Clark to influence him in the granting of commissions within the British Army. The scandal that ensued was national in scope, particularly when Clark testified that she had sold army commissions with Frederick's knowledge. Despite being acquitted of any direct implications, Frederick chose to resign as Commander-in-Chief of the British Army in 1811. In 1811, due to King George III's deteriorating mental health, Frederick's elder brother George took on the role of Prince Regent. However, this arrangement was temporary, as George III passed away later, leading to George's official accession to the throne. In the midst of these political and personal challenges, Frederick was reappointed as Commander-in-Chief by King George IV on the 29th of May, 1811. In this capacity, Frederick exercised strict impartiality when it came to the officer commissions and promotions, ensuring fairness within the military ranks. In 1870, a significant event occurred when Princess Charlotte of Wales, Frederick's only living legitimate niece, tragically died after delivering a stillborn son. This event triggered a succession crisis, and despite the fact that King George III had 15 children, 12 of whom were still alive at this point, only one, George, had produced a legitimate child, Princess Charlotte of Wales. Unless Frederick's brother had another child, Frederick would be the heir presumptive upon their father's death. This situation prompted Frederick's unmarried brothers to seek brides, although any children born to them would remain behind Frederick in the line of succession. In 1819, Frederick was entrusted with the care of his father, King George III, who was by then blind, deaf, and suffering from dementia. King George III passed away on the 29th of January 1820, leading to Frederick's brother becoming King George IV. Frederick experienced personal loss as well, when his wife passed away on the 6th of August 1820, and despite his widowhood, Frederick never remarried. His life came to an end on the 5th of January 1827 at the age of 63, marking the close of a significant era in British history. The life of King George III's daughter, Princess Sofia. Princess Sofia, also known as Sophia Matilda, led a captivating life full of intrigue and rumours. Born on the 3rd of November 1777, she was the 12th child and 5th daughter of King George III and Queen Charlotte. While Sophia is famous for various reasons, One particular scandal surrounds her alleged illegitimate child, which added an extra layer of fascination to her story. During her youth, Sofia shared a special bond with her father, who favoured his daughters over his sons. Unfortunately, her relationship with her mother was fraught with fear, as the princesses were raised in an extremely strict household. Despite King George's initial disapproval of marriage for his daughters, he intended to find them suitable husbands once they reached a certain age. However, his recurrent bouts of madness, along with the Queen's desire to keep her daughters as companions, deterred potential suitors from them. As a result, Sofia and her sisters grew up in a secluded environment, often referred to as a nunnery. While Sofia remained unmarried, rumours circulated that she had become pregnant in 1800. It was said that Thomas Garth, an equerry of her father's, was the father of her illegitimate child. Another scandalous claim suggested that her elder brother, the unpopular Duke of Cumberland, had raped her and fathered the child. Historians remain divided on the truth behind these stories, with some believing she did give birth to Garth's child, while others argue that these tales were spread by political enemies of the royal family. The Prince Regent's efforts to secure more independence for his sisters gained momentum after Queen Charlotte's death in 1818. In her later years, Sofia resided in the household of her niece, Princess Victoria of Kent, who would later become Queen Victoria. It was during this time that she fell under the influence of Sir John Conroy, Victoria's controller. Taking advantage of Sofia's senility and blindness, Conroy manipulated her, and rumours circulated that she held him in high regard due to his ability to handle the alleged bullying behaviour of her supposed illegitimate son. Sofia became a spy for Conroy, reporting on the activities of the Kensington household and her two elder brothers, while he squandered most of her fortune. The princess passed away on the 27th of May 1848 at her residence in Vicarage Place, Kensington Palace. In her early years, Princess Sofia spent her childhood at Buckingham House in London. She was baptised on the 1st of December 1777 in the grand setting of the Great Council Chamber at St James's Palace. The ceremony was conducted by Frederick Cornwallis, the Archbishop of Canterbury. Among her godparents were Prince August of Saxe-Gotha, Altenburg, her first cousin once removed, as well as the Duchess of Brunswick, Wolfenbüttel, her first cousin twice removed. The Duchess of Mecklenburg, the wife of her first cousin once removed, was also a godparent, but they were represented by proxies during the baptism ceremony. Sofia's entrance into the world brought with it provisions for her future, King George, ensuring the financial security of his daughters and younger sons, arranged for Sofia and her elder sisters to receive an annual income of £6,000, either upon their marriages or his passing. The royal household maintained a strict and formal atmosphere, even in private. For instance, when the king entered a room, his daughters were expected to stand up, remain silent until addressed, and only leave with permission. Queen Charlotte, mindful of expenses, took measures to economise. The younger princesses wore less expensive country-made dresses and had plain meals. Education took centre stage in Sofia's early life. Lady Charlotte Finch, the governess for all of the royal children, oversaw their upbringing. Alongside her brothers, Sofia received a strict and disciplined education. Queen Charlotte ensured that expert tutors provided lessons in English, French, music, art, and geography. The princesses also had the opportunity to engage in sports and lively games with their brothers, blending entertainment with education. Theatre and special performances added to their cultural experiences. Sofia's first public appearance took place at Westminster Abbey in 1784 during a commemoration for George Frederick Handel, where she accompanied her parents and older siblings. In a departure from the norms of the time, Sophia's father actively participated in her early upbringing, favouring his daughters over his sons. He attended their birthday celebrations and other special events, showing great fondness for them. However, Queen Charlotte instilled fear in her daughters, and her maternal approach was not always gentle. As Sophia entered adulthood, she began to participate in more family activities alongside her sister Mary. At the age of 14, Sophia made her debut at court on her father's birthday. She was described as a delightful yet occasionally moody young woman, pretty, delicate and passionate. Sophia remained devoted to her father, despite finding him occasionally exacerbating. She expressed her gratitude for his kindness, but also noted his occasional overbearing behaviour, which did concern her. Prior to 1788, King George had discussed taking his daughters to Hanover to find them suitable husbands, despite his reservations based on his sister's unhappy marriages. He admitted that he never wished to see his daughters marry, as he cherished their company and desired to avoid separation. However, the king's first bout of madness in 1788, when Sophia was 11, raised concerns. Sophia described his behaviour as affectionate yet alarming. Further episodes of insanity occurred in 1801 and 1804, postponing any discussions of marriage for his daughters. The topic was rarely broached, as Queen Charlotte feared it could trigger a relapse in the king's mental state. Additionally, strained by her husband's illness, she wanted her princesses to remain close to her. Princess Sophia, much like her sisters, was confined to a life of companionship with her mother, Queen Charlotte. They were strictly kept within the boundaries of the royal court, rarely interacting with men outside of pages, equerries, or attendants. Constantly supervised, the princesses lamented their existence in what they called a nunnery. Their entertainment consisted of the Queen reading sermons to them, and the princesses engaging in the monotonous task of embroidery. Sophia once expressed her profound boredom, wishing she were a kangaroo to escape the deadly dullness of their days. While the Princess Royal managed to marry at a relatively young age, the rest of the princesses faced obstacles in their pursuit of love and family. Although suitors showed an interest, Queen Charlotte intervened and hindered most of their romantic prospects. Longing for their own families and children, the princesses turned to their brother, the Prince of Wales, for assistance. They sought his help in finding suitable spouses, obtaining permission to marry their chosen partners, or even securing the freedom to live outside of Queen Charlotte's suffocating household. In jest, Sophia once humorously suggested to her brother that they should be put in a sack and drowned in the Thames. Before the Prince of Wales assumed the regency in 1811, he had limited power to fulfil his sister's wishes. However, his new position allowed Sophia and other unmarried princesses to receive increased allowances, as well as support in their desire to explore society. Queen Charlotte vehemently opposed these attempts, and she demanded delicate negotiations by the Prince Regent to strike a balance that would grant his sisters some independence. During Sophia's lifetime, rumours circulated about her alleged incestuous relationship with her brother Ernest Augustus, Duke of Cumberland, who later became the King of Hanover. The Prince Regent cautioned his sisters against being alone in the same room with the Duke, who was deeply unpopular with the British public. It remains uncertain whether these rumours held any truth or if they were fabricated by the Duke's numerous political adversaries. With limited exposure to eligible suitors, Sophia and some of her sisters became entangled in relationships with courtiers and equerries. Sophia herself became involved with Major General Thomas Garth, her father's chief equerry, despite him being 33 years her senior and having a conspicuous birthmark on his face. Her sister Mary referred to him as the purple light of love, while others, such as courtier Charles Greville, deemed him a hideous old devil. Nonetheless, one lady-in-waiting observed that the princess was madly in love with him, unable to contain her emotions in his presence. Greville wrote in his diary about the affairs of Sofia and her sisters, noting how they were secluded from the world, with limited interactions, and this led to their passions overflowing and easily falling into the hands of the first men who had the opportunity to engage with them. The rumours of an illegitimate child quickly spread, adding intrigue to Sofia's story. Some historians argue that sometime before August 1800 in Weymouth, Sofia gave birth to a child, allegedly fathered either by Thomas Garth or her own brother, the Duke of Cumberland. The child, named Thomas Garth after his supposed father, was raised by Garth in Weymouth, with occasional visits from Sofia. In 1828, the child reportedly attempted to blackmail the royal family with incriminating documents, but his scheme failed. On the other hand, challenges the belief that Sofia had a child at all, presenting a thorough examination of the available evidence. But others believe that Sofia secretly gave birth to the child, which could explain why she never married. There is mention of a potential marriage between Sofia and Garth in the same year as the child's birth, although no evidence supports this claim aside from the presence of a wedding ring in the portrait of an older Sofia. In her later years, Sofia became a favourite of her niece, Princess Charlotte of Wales, who admired Sofia's gentle character and was intrigued by the gossip surrounding her past. However, Charlotte had tumultuous relationships with her other aunts. Following Queen Charlotte's death in 1818, Augusta and Sofia gained more domestic freedom, although it was too late for them to marry. Sofia inherited Lower Lodge at Windsor Great Park from her mother, which she later gave to the Prince Regent. After Princess Augusta's passing in 1840, Sofia inherited Clarence House and Frogmore. During her final years, Sofia resided in Kensington Palace, living next to her niece, Princess Victoria of Kent, the future Queen Victoria. Sofia, like her sister-in-law, the Duchess of Kent, fell under the influence of Sir John Conroy and allowed him to manage her finances. She became part of the Duchess's social circle and acted as a spy for Conroy, reporting on events at St James's Palace and having privileged access to courtiers and her elder brothers. While some speculated that Conroy's handling of Sofia's illegitimate son endeared him to her, others argue that he took advantage of Sofia's vulnerability in her old age. Sophia often dined with the household, but the Duchess of Kent harboured mistrust towards her. Princess Victoria was aware of her aunt's spying activities, and their relationship remained distant. Sophia's wealth enabled Conroy to lead a lavish lifestyle, acquiring properties and enjoying high social standing. Sophia's influence also played a role in certain members of Victoria's household gaining elevated positions, such as the ennoblement of Victoria's governess, Louise Lejeune, and Conroy's appointment as a Knight Commander of the Hanoverian Order. In the twilight of her life, Princess Sofia battled blindness for over a decade, her world gradually shrouded in darkness. On the morning of the 27th of May 1848, she fell ill at her residence in Vicarage Place, Kensington. Among those who came to her side were her sisters Mary, sister-in-law Queen Adelaide, and nephew-in-law Prince Albert. As the day unfolded, Sophia's condition deteriorated, and at 6:30 that evening she drew her last breath. The sombre scene witnessed the presence of Mary, the Duchesses of Kent and Cambridge, who stood vigil by her side. Sophia's final resting place was not in the grand halls of Windsor Castle, as tradition would dictate, but rather in the Kensal Green Cemetery in London. It was a deliberate choice, as she desired to be near her beloved brother, Prince Augustus, Frederick, Duke of Sussex, whose grave lay on the opposite side of the path. The funeral took place in front of the central chapel, her burial spot marking the eastern boundary. However, her departure revealed a harsh truth. Conroy, the trusted caretaker of her finances, had squandered most of her wealth. Princess Sofia left behind a meagre estate, with virtually nothing left to give. In his diary entry on the 31st of May, Charles Greville captured the essence of Princess Sophia's passing. She was a woman of remarkable intellect and knowledge, yet her existence had been confined away from the vibrant world. She endured years of blindness and helplessness, a silent martyr in her own right. As news of her death coincided with Queen Victoria's birthday, it served as a poignant reminder of the fragility and transience of life. The life of Princess Amelia. Princess Amelia was born on the 7th of August 1783, and she was a fascinating character in the royal family of the United Kingdom. She was the youngest of King George III and Queen Charlotte's 15 children, and the only one born at Windsor Castle, making her arrival even more special. Affectionately called Emily by her doting father, Amelia was regarded as his favourite child. Amelia's birth came after the tragic loss of her older brothers, Octavius and Alfred, which created a significant age gap between her and her closest surviving sibling, Princess Sofia. There were great expectations for Amelia's future. Her arrival was seen as a beacon of hope, as it marked a new chapter after the war between Great Britain and the United States. Even at a young age, Amelia exuded a sense of regality. It is said that when the renowned actress Sarah Siddons expressed a desire to kiss the adorable baby, Amelia instinctively extended her tiny hand for the honour. This early display of royal manners hinted at the princess's awareness of her noble status. Observers noted her decorum and dignity, particularly when she interacted with strangers, as if she understood the significance of upholding her elevated position. She became known as the Little Idol and embodied the qualities of beauty and charm that her late brother Octavius had possessed. As the youngest of the surviving children, Amelia grew up primarily in the company of her sisters Mary and Sofia, residing in the various royal residences. However, unlike their older siblings who received more attention from their parents, the three younger princesses had less direct interaction with the king and queen. They relied on written correspondence to maintain contact and share their experiences. Amelia's life was marked by her unique position within the royal family and the expectations placed upon her. Her story offers a glimpse into the dynamics and complexities of the British monarchy during that time. The mischievous spirit of the youngest princess, Mary, Sofia and Amelia, became evident during a portrait session in 1785. Unlike their well-behaved elder sisters, these three royal children proved to be quite a challenge for the artists. John Singleton Copley. The dogs, birds, and especially the energetic trio refused to sit still, leading Copley to abandon the portrait. It was said to be the last time he ever attempted such a task, undoubtedly frustrated by their wild antics. While their older sisters Charlotte, Augusta, and Elizabeth received a carefully planned education, Mary, Sofia, and Amelia had a more haphazard approach. They were simply taught based on what they had done before, lacking the same level of structure and guidance. Amelia was only 5 years old when her father, King George III, experienced his first episode of madness. As a result, she missed out on the close and affectionate family dynamics that her elder sisters had enjoyed during their early years. Prior to 1788, King George had entertained the idea of finding suitable husbands for his daughters, and even planned to take them to Hanover for that purpose. However, his own reservations stemming from his sisters' unhappy marriages held him back. He cherished his daughters' company and had no desire to see them separated. Yet his recurring bouts of insanity in 1788, 1801 and 1804 put any thoughts of marriage on hold. The subject was avoided as Queen Charlotte feared it could trigger her husband's relapse into madness. Additionally, due to the Queen's own health issues, she wanted her daughters to remain close by, further isolating them from potential suitors. Amelia and her sisters Charlotte, Augusta, Sofia, Elizabeth, Mary, and Sofia lived a sheltered and overprotected life, which limited their opportunities to meet eligible suitors of their own age. They were kept away from the outside world, creating a sense of seclusion and dependence on their immediate family. Amelia's health was always a concern, and in 1798 she developed a painful knee joint and was sent to the seaside town of Worthing for recovery. She wrote to her father expressing hope in the therapeutic benefits of the warm sea bath. The following year she temporarily improved and joined her family in Weymouth, where she adored her niece, Princess Charlotte of Wales. However, Amelia's health remained fragile throughout her life, and at the age of 15 she began showing symptoms of tuberculosis. In 1801, Amelia was sent for a seaside cure in Weymouth to elevate her health issues. It was during this time that she met the Honourable Charles Fitzroy, a 21-year-old equerry and the son of Charles Fitzroy, 1st Baron Southampton. Amelia fell deeply in love with Fitzroy and desired to marry him, but the strict provisions of the Royal Marriages Act prevented her from doing so without the consent of the Privy Council until she turned 25. The Queen was aware of their affair, but chose to turn a blind eye to avoid triggering the King's fragile mental state. Amelia, referring to herself as Amelia Fitzroy, AFR, considered herself married to him anyway, despite the legal obstacles they faced. Amelia's life was filled with forbidden love, health struggles, and the constraints of royal protocol. Her story adds an intriguing layer to the complexities and challenges faced by the younger generation of the royal family. In 1808, Princess Amelia suffered a severe bout of measles, and the gloomy atmosphere at home in Windsor only added to her misery. Concerned for her well-being, King George made the decision to send Amelia to Weymouth, accompanied by her sister Mary. Although her health only slightly improved, she found solace in moments of quiet rest. By 1809, she was able to take occasional short walks in her garden. However, this improvement was short-lived, and in August 1810 her suffering intensified, and in the October of that year she was struck by St. Anthony's fire, a painful skin condition. This illness dashed all hope, confining her to her bed on the 25th. King George was deeply anxious about his daughter's condition, summoning her physicians multiple times a day to receive a detailed update on her health. Despite the devoted care provided by her beloved sister Mary, Amelia's condition continued to deteriorate. Tragically, she passed away at noon on the 2nd of November, coinciding with her brother Edward's birthday. As a final token of remembrance, Amelia had a mourning ring crafted for the king, containing a lock of her hair enclosed in crystal, adorned with diamonds. It is said that the king wept upon receiving this heartfelt gift, and in her will Amelia directed that all of her possessions be given to Charles Fitzroy, her forbidden love. Amelia was laid to rest in the royal vault at St. George's Chapel in Windsor. It is rumoured that her elder brother, later known as George IV, requested a death mass to remember her by. The aftermath of Amelia's death brought about unforeseen consequences. George Villiers, the king's bailiff and brother of the Earl of Clarendon, attempted to blackmail the king and queen by holding on to letters belonging to Amelia. This scandal followed the disappearance of a substantial sum of £280,000 that Villiers was responsible for. Interestingly, Villiers would later become the father of the renowned diplomat and statesman George Villiers, 4th Earl of Clarendon. Amelia's passing had a profound impact on her father's mental and physical health, contributing to his decline into insanity. The Regency Act of 1811 was subsequently invoked, leading to the appointment of a regent to govern in the king's stead. According to his physician, Dr. Willis, King George would often cry out in a delirious state, pleading for Amelia to save him and expressing disdain for the physicians. Another of the king's delusions involved a belief that a healthy Amelia was living happily in Hanover with a large family, never growing older and always remaining well. Described as a beautiful young woman with ruby lips and auburn hair, Amelia was known for her spirited and tempestuous nature. Despite this, she was also recognized as amiable, intelligent, and unselfish. Even Princess Caroline, who had a disdainful view of her in-laws, referred to Amelia as the most amiable of the bunch. Both the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Sussex held a special fondness for her, with the latter describing her as a lovely creature. Amelia adored her elder brother, the Prince of Wales, and confessed that she had always loved him more than her other brothers. He too cherished her deeply, and her death left him devastated. In fact, he could never again sleep in a room without several lit candles after her funeral. Even 3 years later, he would burst into tears at the mere mention of her name, a testament to the lasting impact she had on his life. The life of Princess Augusta Sofia, born on November 8, 1768, was no ordinary princess. She was the 6th child and 2nd daughter of King George III and Queen Charlotte, and her story is filled with fascinating details. When Augusta was born at Buckingham House, her father, King George III, had a strong desire for a baby girl. The doctor attending the birth even remarked that anyone who saw the beautiful princess upstairs would be glad to have another. The king, however, was so determined to have a companion for his beloved Princess Royal that he retorted that anyone who saw that lovely child would wish for her twin. To everyone's joy, the new addition to the family turned out to be a small and pretty girl. On the 6th of December 1768, Augusta was christened in a grand ceremony at St. James's Palace. The Archbishop of Canterbury himself presided over the event, and her beloved godparents included her maternal uncle, Prince Charles of Mecklenburg, the Queen Consort of Denmark, represented by a proxy, and her paternal aunt, the hereditary Duchess of Brunswick-Lunenburg, also represented by a proxy. Even at just 1 month old, Augusta was hailed as the most beautiful infant by Lady Mary Coke. As part of the trio of elder princesses, Augusta, along with her older sister Charlotte and younger sister Elizabeth, had a unique upbringing. Starting in 1771, they began travelling to Kew for lessons under the guidance of Lady Charlotte Finch and Miss Frederica Planter. This shift meant that they spent less time with their brothers, only occasionally crossing paths during their daily walks. In 1774, Martha Goldsworthy, also known as Gooley, became their new head educator. The princesses delved into traditional feminine pursuits like music, dancing, and the arts. However, their mother made sure that they also received a well-rounded education, including subjects like English, French, German, and geography, taught by knowledgeable governesses. Princess Augusta Sophia's childhood and adolescence were filled with not only the privileges of royalty but also a commitment to learning and personal growth. Her unique upbringing and the diverse range of skills she acquired set the stage for her intriguing future. Princess Augusta, though deemed childish in comparison to her older sister, was Miss Planter's favourite among the princesses, who even went so far as to declare her handsomest of all. However, Augusta's charming appearance concealed a painfully shy nature, and when faced with unfamiliar faces, she often found herself stammering. Right from her early years, Augusta was driven by a strong desire to be good, which left her disheartened whenever she fell short of her own expectations. Her behaviour swung between troublesome and well-mannered, with occasional tantrums and even striking her governesses. Yet she also possessed a serene disposition and a deep affection for her family. Augusta harboured a profound dislike for the political tensions that had arisen between her elder brothers and their parents by 1780, choosing instead to immerse herself in her beloved coin collection. Shielded from the outside world like her sisters, Augusta's sole confidants were her attendants, with whom she maintained a frequent correspondence. In 1782, Augusta made her much-anticipated society debut at the King's birthday celebrations. Fearful of crowds, her mother kept her in the dark about the event until a mere 2 days before it took place. The same year brought heart-wrenching tragedies as Augusta mourned the loss of her youngest brother Alfred, followed by the passing of her next youngest brother Octavius 8 months later. When the princesses attended the Royal Academy's summer expedition in 1783, the portraits of their departed brothers overwhelmed them, leading to tearful outbursts before onlookers. In August of that year, Augusta's youngest sibling, Amelia, was born, and she, along with Charlotte and George, stood as a godparent. While the birth of her sister didn't erase the pain of her brothers' deaths, Augusta chose not to dwell on their loss like their father did. As the 3 eldest princesses entered their teenage years, they increasingly spent time in the company of their parents. They accompanied them to the theatre, the opera, and courtly affairs, with their once academic lessons taking a backseat to music and the arts. They had the privilege of hearing renowned actresses like Sarah Siddons perform, and Augusta, alongside Charlotte and their parents, had the opportunity to meet John Adams when he was presented to the Queen. Whenever seen in public, the 3 girls were impeccably dressed alike, the only distinction being the colour of their dresses. Despite their frequent public appearances, Augusta found her greatest joy in the comfort of home, where she doted on her younger brothers Ernest, Augustus, and Adolphus. She shared an exceptionally close bond with her sister Elizabeth, as Charlotte often displayed haughty behaviour and an excessive awareness of her position as a Princess Royal. As Augusta and the Princess Royal approached a marriageable age, a significant change occurred in their lives. In July 1783, they were assigned their First Lady-in-Waiting, marking a step towards their future roles as potential brides. Augusta, eager for news and connection, frequently corresponded with her elder brother William, who was undergoing military training in Hanover. She proved to be a skilled and devoted correspondent, sharing family updates and encouraging him to share the events of his own life. Augusta delighted in her brother's attention and cherished the small gifts that he sent her, and despite the Queen's attempt to dissuade William from taking up too much of his sister's valuable time. While their academic lessons were winding down, the Queen was determined not to let her daughters waste a moment, ensuring that they dedicated hours to studying music, art, and various specialities under the tutelage of different masters. The princesses adhered to a peculiar dress code, only dressing for dinner and wearing morning gowns for the majority of the day. Even when they did dress up, the royal family favoured plain attire, far removed from the extravagant opulence seen in other courts. With 6 princesses in the household, the Queen's expenses for clothing alone were extortionate, and she made efforts to keep costs within the limits of her allowance. Transitioning into this new phase of life meant that the amount of money spent on the Queen's 3 eldest daughters was rapidly escalating. Constantly in need of dresses, hats, trimmings, fans, and other items, the princesses proved to be a considerable drain on the royal purse. Quarterly expenses for their wardrobe were estimated to be £2,000, and when combined with the cost of their servants and tutors, the figures became even more staggering. However, there was an unintended benefit. The princesses began to capture the public's attention. When their group portrait was displayed to the people, their porcelain-like beauty sparked admiration. Dressed identically, only their choice of accessories hinted at the distinct personalities concealed underneath their painted veneer. By 1785, Augusta and Charlotte were reaching an age where it would be considered as potential brides for foreign princes. The Crown Prince of Denmark, later known as King Frederick VI, expressed to King George III his intention to break off all other marriage proposals for a British princess. It was rumoured that he favoured Augusta over her eldest sisters. However, due to the ill treatment of George III's youngest sister by King Christian VII of Denmark, the king staunchly declared that he would never send one of his daughters to the Danish court. As their friends and fellow courtiers began to marry, the princesses found themselves wondering when their turn would come. In 1797, Augusta received a proposal from Prince Frederick Adolphus of Sweden, an offer that had not been sanctioned by the Swedish royal house. A British princess, especially from a fertile mother, was highly sought after. Yet their father appeared increasingly reluctant to allow his daughters to enter into marriage alliances, raising questions and concerns among the princesses about their future prospects. Denied the opportunity for personal relationships with men of their own rank, several daughters of King George III embarked on clandestine romances with gentlemen at court. Augusta Sophia's path crossed with Sir Brent Spencer, a senior Anglo-Irish officer in the British Army around 1800. In a letter to her brother, the future King George IV, in 1812, Augusta revealed that she and Spencer had formed a deep connection around 1803, during his time stationed in England. Their bond grew stronger when Spencer was appointed as an equerry to the king in 1805. Fueled by passion, the couple carefully nurtured their love affair, ensuring the utmost privacy. In her plea to the Prince Regent for consent to marry Spencer, Augusta promised to maintain their discretion and public behaviour. While there is no official record of their marriage, rumours circulated within the court of Hesse-Homburg during her sister Elizabeth's wedding in 1818 that Augusta was secretly wedded. It was Spencer who conveyed the news of Augusta's mother's passing later that year, and upon Spencer's own death in 1828, he was found holding a locket containing Augusta's portrait, further attesting to the depth of their connection. In her later years, Augusta remained devoted to various interests. She was known to be a patron of El Bertolotto's flea circus, as documented in a flyer held by the V&A archives. In 1828, she expressed her sentiments to a friend, stating that she once felt ashamed to be called Princess Augusta, while any surviving members of the Stuart family still existed. However, after the passing of Cardinal York in 1807, she finally embraced her true identity as Princess Augusta. On the 10th of February 1840, Augusta attended the momentous wedding of her niece, Queen Victoria, to Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg in Gotha. Later that year, on the 22nd of September, Augusta passed away at Clarence House at St James's, London. She was laid to rest in the Royal Vault at St George's Chapel, Windsor, on the 2nd of October, following a period of lying in state at Frogmore. Augusta Sophia's life was marked by hidden passions and a longing for personal connection, making her journey all the more intriguing and enigmatic.
The life of Princess Mary, King George III's daughter. Princess Mary, Duchess of Gloucester and Edinburgh, led a remarkable life intertwined with royalty and love. Born on the 25th of April 1776 in the Grand Buckingham Palace, she was the 11th child of King George III and Queen Charlotte. Mary's upbringing was guided by her loving parents, who took an active role in her education and moral development. Despite her reserved and dignified demeanour, Mary was hailed as the most beautiful daughter of George III. Her elegance and charm were showcased when she danced a captivating minuet at the age of 16 during a lavish court ball. As she blossomed into womanhood, Mary made her official debut at court in 1792, captivating the hearts of many. In 1796, love found its way into Mary's life when she met Prince Frederick, a Dutch prince living in exile in London. They fell deeply in love, but their path to marriage was hindered by George III's insistence that her elder sisters marry first. Tragically, in 1799, Prince Frederick succumbed to an infection while serving in the army, leaving Mary devastated. She was granted the honour of entering official mourning for her lost love. As time passed, Mary's life took another turn when she married her first cousin, Prince William Frederick, Duke of Gloucester and Edinburgh. Both in their 40s, they found companionship and happiness in each other's company. Mary became the Duke's devoted wife and shared many memorable years with him. In her later years, Mary witnessed the reign of her niece, Queen Victoria, who became the fourth monarch during Mary's lifetime. She outlived her father and two of her brothers, George IV and William IV, making her longest-lived and last surviving child of King George III. Mary's longevity was a testament to her strength and resilience, and at the age of 81, Princess Mary, Duchess of Gloucester and Edinburgh, passed away at Gloucester House in Weymouth. Her legacy as a beloved member of the royal family, as well as her enduring beauty and resilience, will forever be remembered. Princess Mary, known for her obedient nature, was affectionately referred to as Mama's Tool by her younger sister, Princess Amelia. Their bond was unbreakable, and Mary tirelessly nursed Amelia during her painful illness. Tragically, Amelia's premature death in 1810 left Mary devastated, losing a beloved companion and confidant. Mary's close relationship extended to her elder brother, with whom she shared a mutual disdain for their cousin Caroline of Brunswick, his estranged wife. When Caroline departed for Italy, Mary expressed her relief, congratulating her brother on the prospect of a good riddance. She hoped that Caroline would never return, freeing them from any further encounters. Raised in a sheltered environment, Mary spent most of her time in the company of her parents and sisters. In 1816, at the age of 40, she married her first cousin, Prince William Frederick, Duke of Gloucester and Edinburgh. Their wedding day brought a significant change in William's title, as Mary's brother, the Prince Regent, elevated him from Highness to Royal Highness. This elevated status was already deserved by Mary as the daughter of the king. Interestingly, William Frederick had initially pursued a marriage with Mary's niece, Princess Charlotte of Wales. However, their courtship was cut short due to Charlotte's father's disapproval. Some speculate that Mary's decision to marry her cousin stemmed from her dissatisfaction with Queen Charlotte's strict household rules. Princess Charlotte noted that William Frederick was deeply in love and declared himself the happiest man alive. While Mary might not have shared the same level of enthusiasm, the prospect of being her own mistress, having her own house, and being able to freely walk about the streets delighted her in different ways. The couple resided in Bagshot Park initially, but later moved on to White Lodge in Richmond Park after William's passing. Although they did not have any children together, their companionship and shared life brought them much happiness. Princess Mary's life came to an end on the 30th of April 1857 at Gloucester House in Mayfair. At the age of 81, she was the last surviving child of George III and Queen Charlotte, having outlived her siblings and leaving behind a legacy of resilience and devotion.
The life of Princess Elizabeth, the daughter of King George III. Princess Elizabeth of the United Kingdom, a fascinating and vibrant personality, defied the expectations of her stately upbringing. Born on the 22nd of May 1770 at Buckingham House in London, she was the seventh child and third daughter of King George III and Queen Charlotte. While her siblings were shielded from the world, Elizabeth's spirit yearned for adventure and fulfillment. Despite her privileged but restricted existence, Elizabeth maintained an unwaveringly positive outlook. Her zest for life propelled her to explore diverse interests and cultivate her talents. A gifted artist, she created captivating engravings, using her art to support charitable causes. Breaking away from traditional gender roles, Elizabeth shared her father's passion for agriculture and managed her own model farm in the scenic village of Old Windsor. She derived immense joy from the bountiful produce of her garden and relished the delectable indulgences she favoured, much to the playful teasing of her family. Elizabeth's buoyant nature extended beyond her creative pursuits. Renowned for her sharp wit, she amassed a vast collection of jokes and witticisms, delighting those in her company. Unapologetically candid and genuine, she shunned superficial formalities and valued sincerity above all. Among her siblings, Elizabeth formed particularly close bonds with her sister Augusta and her brother Edward, Duke of Kent and Strathearn. Additionally, she shared a special connection with her mother, Queen Charlotte, a bond that influenced the Queen's reluctance to see Elizabeth married off. With her insatiable curiosity and vibrant personality, Princess Elizabeth of the United Kingdom carved a unique path, defying conventions and leaving an undeniable mark on those around her. Tales of intriguing romantic entanglements surround Princess Elizabeth, adding an air of mystery to her life. One such story suggests that she entered into a clandestine marriage with George Ramus, resulting in the birth of their daughter, Alyssa, in 1788. George Ramus, the son of one of Elizabeth's father's pages, enjoyed a connection to the royal family. While such union would have been deemed invalid under the Royal Marriages Act 1772, Elizabeth's brothers had also ventured into similar relationship with commoners before later marrying German princesses. Elizabeth's sisters, largely restricted from marrying into royalty, sought to love and companionship with equerries and influential courtiers. Elizabeth herself may have been engaged in a romantic relationship with the first Baron of St. Helens, a respected diplomat who held the favour of George III. Despite the 17-year age difference, St. Helens' practical and sharp-witted nature resonated with Elizabeth, who cherished him dearly. She affectionately referred to him as a dear and valuable saint and expressed her unwavering admiration for him. Elizabeth's attachment to St. Helens was evident when she was commissioned a portrait of him, while he reciprocated her affections by keeping an enamel miniature of Elizabeth. Regarding marriage, Elizabeth's path took an unexpected turn in 1808 when she declined a proposal from the exiled Duke of Orleans, later known as King Louis Philippe I of France. The rejection was influenced by her mother's opposition and the Duke's Catholic faith. However, fate intervened during a grand ball in the British royal court in 1814 when Elizabeth encountered Prince Frederick of Hesse-Homburg, a German noble. Captivated by his dashing presence in his elegant hussar's uniform, she exclaimed, "If he is single, I will marry him." 4 years later, Elizabeth received a letter bearing Frederick's proposal. Intrigued and supported by her surviving sisters, she eagerly embraced the opportunity. Despite rumours of Frederick's weight and persistent tobacco odour from his beloved pipes, Elizabeth remained resolute in her desire to wed him. Queen Charlotte initially opposed the match, fearing Elizabeth's relocation to Germany. However, Elizabeth's unwavering determination eventually persuaded her mother to relent and grant her blessing to the union. Against all odds and amid resistance, the enchanting wedding of Princess Elizabeth and Prince Frederick took place on the 7th of April, 1818. The intimate ceremony unfolded within the private chapel of Buckingham Palace, nestled in the heart of Westminster. Elizabeth, radiant and resplendent, donned a magnificent gown crafted from the shimmering silver tissue and adorned with delicate Brussels lace. Ostrich feathers gracefully adorned her hair, lending a charm to her appearance. Leading her down the aisle was her second eldest brother, the Duke of York, as her father and eldest brother, the Prince Regent, were regrettably absent due to illness. Following their nuptials, the newlyweds embarked on a honeymoon at the splendid residence of the Prince Regent in Brighton. While their union was not born out of a fiery love affair, it proved to be a harmonious alliance that satisfied both parties, offered an escape from the suffocating confines of her home, granting her the opportunity to embark on a new life in Germany with her husband. In turn, Frederick reaped the advantages of aligning himself with the esteemed British royal family. However, as they embarked on their honeymoon, both were pleasantly surprised to discover a deep sense of happiness and contentment in each other's presence. Frederick found Elizabeth to be intelligent, generous, and affectionate, while Elizabeth cherished her husband's qualities. Their marriage blossomed into a blissful union that endured until Frederick's passing in 1829, celebrated as a testament to enduring love. In the years that followed, Elizabeth and Frederick embraced their roles with grace and purpose, and in 1820 Frederick ascended to the position of Landgrave of Hesse-Homburg, upon his father's passing. With Elizabeth's dowry and annual allowance, they were able to transform the Homburg Palace, breathing new life and splendour into their surroundings. Freed from the rigid court etiquette she had found stifling in England, Elizabeth revelled in her newfound freedom in Germany. She even oversaw the construction of the exquisite Gothic house within the castle grounds, a testament to their shared vision and creativity. Deeply committed to making a difference, Elizabeth established a care centre and school in Hanover for the children of working mothers. Although she herself was past childbearing age, she discovered immense fulfillment in working with the young students who graced the halls of the school. Tragically, Elizabeth's journey came to an end on the 10th of January 1840, as she peacefully passed away at the age of 69 in Frankfurt am Main, Hesse, Germany. Her final resting place became the majestic mausoleum of the Landgrave, situated in Homburg. Princess Elizabeth's legacy as a compassionate and dedicated individual, both with her marriage and in her philanthropic endeavours, would continue to inspire generations to come. The life of Princess Charlotte. Introducing Charlotte the Princess Royal, a captivating figure whose life was steeped in royalty and intrigue. Born on the 29th of September 1766 at Buckingham House in London, she emerged as the cherished child of King George III and his wife Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitz. The splendour of her birth was immortalised in a magnificent painting by Francis Coates, capturing the tender bond between mother and child. From the outset, it was clear that Princess Charlotte possessed an air of distinction that set her apart from her siblings. On the 27th of October 1766, she was baptised at St. James's Palace by none other than the esteemed Archbishop of Canterbury, Thomas Secker. Among the distinguished guests in attendance were her paternal aunts, Caroline Matilda and Louisa, along with Caroline Matilda's husband, the Danish King Christian VII. The Duke of Portland and the Dowager Countess of Effingham had the honour of representing the King and Queen of Denmark as godparents, an auspicious start to a life destined for greatness. At the tender age of 18 months, Charlotte was designated as the Princess Royal, a title bestowed upon her on the 22nd of June 1789. This delighted her parents, who had welcomed 3 successive sons into their growing family. As the eldest daughter of the monarch, she was fated for a significant marriage on the European stage, and her education assumed paramount importance. Thus, from her earliest years, she embarked on a journey of intellectual enrichment, recognizing the prevailing influence of the French language in European courts. The young princess was assigned a French tutor to ensure her flawless command of the language. The elimination of any trace of accent became a priority, allowing her to effortlessly navigate diplomatic circles in the future. Charlotte's extraordinary memory was also cultivated, with recitation of verses and stories forming an integral part of her early education. This remarkable ability to retain detail would accompany her throughout her life, conferring upon her an almost magical recall. Yet Charlotte's formative years were not confined solely to scholarly pursuits. At the tender age of 3, she participated in her first tableau, donning the attire of Columbine, a character in a delightful performance. With her 7-year-old brother George, the Prince of Wales, as her dance partner, she graced the stage, exhibiting an early inclination towards the performing arts. However, as she matured, she grew to despise such display of childlike vanity, believing them to breed arrogance and self-importance. Nevertheless, her parents persisted in showcasing their daughter's charm and grace. In late 1769, an event transpired that would forever alter the course of Charlotte's public appearances. She and the Prince of Wales were paraded before the masses in a grand expedition, styled as a junior drawing room at St. James's Palace. The young princess was adorned in a splendid Roman toga, reclining upon a sumptuous sofa. While such spectacles were deemed acceptable in German courts, they were met with disdain in England, resulting in a backlash from a disapproving London mob. In the aftermath, the Prince of Wales confided to Lady Mary Coke, revealing Charlotte's exhaustion from the ordeal. Sensibly, the King and Queen resolved never to subject their daughter to such public showcases again, a decision that would shape the princess's future engagements. Thus, Charlotte the Princess Royal embarked on a life marked by privilege, intellect, and the audacious expectations of her royal lineage. Her story weaves together the tapestry of European nobility, promising an extraordinary journey through the annals of history. Despite being the eldest daughter, Charlotte often found herself living in the shadow of her younger sister, Augusta Sofia, who was just 2 years her junior. From the earliest days, comparisons were drawn between the two siblings, and it seemed that Augusta held the upper hand in the beauty department. Even as an infant, Augusta was hailed as the most beautiful baby by Lady Mary Coke, while Charlotte was deemed very plain. This pattern persisted as they grew older, and Charlotte became described as the most sensible and agreeable child, albeit lacking in physical attractiveness, while Augusta continued to be hailed as rather pretty. However, beneath the surface disparities, Charlotte possessed qualities that set her apart from her sister. Unlike Augusta, she did not bear the burden of crippling shyness. Additionally, Charlotte faced a personal challenge, a stammer that her devoted attendant, Mary Dacres, endeavoured to help her overcome. As fate would have it, the trio of eldest princesses was completed with the arrival of Princess Elizabeth in 1770, becoming the 7th child in a growing royal brood. Though the family remained relatively small at the time, with 15 royal children in total, Charlotte was fortunate to have parents who prioritised spending time with their extensive offspring over courtly obligations. Her education was taken seriously, a testament to the King and Queen's commitment. Nonetheless, Charlotte's childhood was not idyllic utopia that her parents had envisioned. The incessant arrival of new siblings and the challenges that beset her father's reign created an environment far from perfect. Nevertheless, she, like her siblings, received a comprehensive education under the guidance of tutors. Buckingham House, Kew Palace, and Windsor Castle served as her primary abodes during her formative years. To ensure her well-being, her wet nurse Frances, the wife of James Muttlebury, played a vital role in her early care. In the intricate tapestry of royal life, Charlotte's experiences were shaped by the complex dynamics of sibling rivalry, the struggle to find her own identity, and the nurturing guidance of devoted caregivers. The story of her upbringing would lay the foundation for the resilient and remarkable woman that she would become. In a momentous ceremony on the 18th of May 1797, the Princess Royal embarked on a new chapter of her life as she exchanged vows with Frederick, the hereditary Prince of Württemberg. The opulent Chapel Royal at St James's Palace in London bore witness to this union, uniting Charlotte and Frederick, the eldest son and heir apparent of Duke Frederick II, Eugenie of Württemberg, and his wife, Margravine Sofia Dorothea of Brandenburg-Schwedt. A twist of fate awaited the newlyweds as Duke Frederick II passed away, elevating Frederick to the position of reigning Duke of Württemberg on the 22nd of December, 1797. From his previous marriage to Princess Augusta, the late daughter of Duke Karl II, and Princess Augusta of Great Britain, Duke Frederick had 2 sons and 2 daughters. This familial connection intertwined the British and Württemberg royal families, with Princess Augusta also being the elder sister of Caroline of Brunswick, the estranged wife of the future George IV. Despite the high hopes for their union, the marriage between Charlotte and Frederick produced heartbreak. Tragedy struck when their first child, a daughter, was stillborn on the 27th of April 1798. The weight of this loss cast a shadow over their early years together. and in 1800 the French army invaded Württemberg, forcing the Duke and Duchess to flee to Vienna for safety. The following year, Duke Frederick negotiated a private treaty, surrendering to France. On the 25th of February 1803, he assumed the title of Elector of Württemberg. In a strategic move to secure support from France, he provided a significant auxiliary force to Napoleon, leading to the Emperor recognizing him as the King of Württemberg on the 26th of December 1805. With this accession, Charlotte the Electress was formally crowned as Queen of Württemberg on the 1st of January 1806, in a grand ceremony held in Stuttgart, Germany. The political landscape took a dramatic turn as Württemberg seceded from the Royal Roman Empire, aligning itself with Napoleon's Confederation of the Rhine. However, this newfound alliance placed the elevated king at odds with his father-in-law, George III. The British monarch, deeply resentful of his son-in-law's regal title and allegiance to Napoleon, refused to acknowledge Charlotte as Queen of Württemberg in their correspondence. This strained relationship between the two was a reflection of the complex dynamics of power and conflicting loyalties during that era. In 1813, King Frederick made a significant shift in his allegiances, abandoning Napoleon's cause to join the Allied forces. His family ties to the Prince Regent, later George IV, proved advantageous, boosting his standing among the Allies. Following Napoleon's downfall, King Frederick attended the Congress of Vienna, where his royal status was confirmed. However, his reign was not destined to be long-lasting, as he passed away in October 1816, leaving behind a legacy intertwined with the turbulent times of war and political realignments. With the passing of her husband, Charlotte's role transformed into that of Dowager Queen. She chose to reside at the magnificent Ludwigsburg Palace, situated near Stuttgart, where she welcomed visits from her beloved younger siblings. The Duke of Kent, the Duke of Sussex, the Duke of Cambridge, the Landgrave of Hesse-Homburg, and Princess Augusta Sofia graced her with her presence, forming a cherished bond of family. In 1819, Charlotte had the honour of being a grandmother, albeit by proxy, at the christening of her niece, Princess Victoria of Kent, who would later ascend to the throne as Queen Victoria. This joyous occasion held special significance for Charlotte, bridging the gap between generations and reinforcing the enduring ties that bound the British royal family. In 1827, after more than 3 decades away from her homeland, the 60-year-old princess embarked on a momentous journey back to Britain. Her health had deteriorated and she sought medical treatment for dropsy. The introduction of steam on the Rhine provided a convenient means of travel. Setting sail on the 31st of May, Charlotte embarked on the magnificent steamboat Frederick Wilhelm, descending the Rhine with the logistics of her arrival were challenging due to her weight, which made it necessary that she was hosted aboard the Royal Sovereign on a specially crafted chair. Unfortunately, the weather forced the ship to depart from Bath. Upon reaching London, Charlotte took up residence at St. James's Palace, a place filled with memories and history. It is here that she received numerous visits from her extended family and had the opportunity to reconnect with the authorities. A significant farewell visit from the King himself, George IV, marked a poignant moment before her departure. On Tuesday, the 9th of October, Charlotte set sail from England on the Royal Sovereign. However, a fierce storm compelled the ship to retreat to Harwich, delaying her journey. Undeterred by setbacks, Charlotte resumed her voyage on the 14th. After spending a night on board, she continued her journey on the steamboat. Finally, on the 19th of October, she arrived in Frankfurt, where she was warmly welcomed by the King and Queen of Württemberg, as well as the Duke of Cambridge. This joyful reunion served as a reminder of the intertwining of the British and Württemberg connections. On the 24th of October, she returned to Ludwigsburg Palace, her tranquil sanctuary. Tragically, Charlotte's life came to an end within the walls of this palace on the 6th of October 1828. Her final resting place would be in the palace's royal vault, a testament to her significant role in both the British and Württemberg royal families. Her legacy as a beloved Dowager Queen and a remarkable individual endured, forever etched in the annals of history.